I think the most dangerous thing happening in General Hospital right now isn't the obvious violence, the mob tension, or even the shifting alliances. It's Ava. And I feel like not enough people are truly paying attention to just how calculated she's becoming. From my perspective, this isn't just another one of Ava's emotional entanglements or impulsive decisions. This feels different. It feels colder, more strategic, more intentional. And I could be wrong, but it seems to me like Ava isn't just chasing love anymore, she's chasing power. I feel like what we're watching right now is the quiet rise of someone who no longer wants to survive in Port Charles, but wants to dominate it. Because, let me be honest, I don't think Ava's interest in Sidwell is about attraction. I don't think it's about loneliness, and I definitely don't think it's about healing. I think it's about control. And if I'm right, then Sonny might already be in more danger than he realizes. From my perspective, Ava is positioning herself very carefully around Sidwell, and I don't believe any of it is accidental. Sidwell enters the picture as one of the most dangerous men in town. I think we can all agree on that. He's unpredictable, powerful, and emotionally unstable after the loss of his son Marco. That kind of grief, it doesn't just make someone vulnerable, it makes them volatile. And yet, Ava moves toward him instead of away from him. That alone says everything to me. I feel like most people would see Sidwell as a threat to avoid, but Ava sees him as an opportunity. That's the difference. She's not reacting to danger, she's leveraging it. I'll be honest, I feel uneasy watching this storyline unfold. Not because I think Ava's making a mistake, but because I think she knows exactly what she's doing. And that's what makes it unsettling. I think there was a time when Ava's choices were driven by emotion, love, jealousy, fear. But now, I feel like she's evolved into someone who can separate emotion from strategy. And I could be wrong, but it seems to me like Ava has learned from every relationship she's ever had, and now she's applying those lessons in a much more dangerous way. Let's talk about Ava's history for a second. I think it's impossible to ignore the pattern. Sonny, Ryan, Nicholas, and others we don't even need to list in detail. In my opinion, Ava has always been drawn to dangerous men. Not just flawed men, but men with power, darkness, and influence. And I feel like that's not a coincidence. But here's where things change. Before, I think Ava was drawn to these men emotionally. There was passion, chaos, and sometimes even genuine love. Now, I think she's choosing Sidwell differently. This isn't about attraction. This is about ambition. From my perspective, Sidwell represents something Ava has never fully had. Access to complete power. Sonny always kept parts of his world hidden. I think he was careful he never fully let anyone in, especially not when it came to the structure of his organization. And that's why Sonny has survived for so long. But I feel like Sidwell might not be that careful. He's grieving, he's vulnerable, and most importantly, he's alone. And Ava sees that. I think Ava's approach to Sidwell is one of the most calculated moves she's ever made. She doesn't come in strong. She doesn't try to dominate. Instead, she connects. She empathizes with his loss. She brings up Kiki. And I feel like that's the key. Because this isn't just sympathy, it's strategic empathy. I could be wrong, but it seems to me like Ava is using her own trauma as a tool. Not in a fake way, but in a very controlled, intentional way. She knows what it means to lose a child. And she knows that shared pain creates instant trust. Let me say this clearly. I don't think Ava just wants to be with Sidwell. I think Ava wants to become indispensable to him. Because once she becomes that, everything changes. From my perspective, Ava's potential goals might look something like this. Become Sidwell's emotional anchor. Gain his trust completely. Learn how his organization operates. Position herself as his partner, not just romantically, but strategically. And eventually, I think she wants power. Real power. I could be wrong, but I keep coming back to one thought. What happens if Sidwell dies? Because if Ava becomes close enough, trusted enough, important enough, then everything he has could become hers. And that's when this stops being a relationship and becomes a takeover. Now, let's talk about Sonny. Because I feel like Sonny is the biggest obstacle in Ava's potential plan. And not just because of their past, but because Sunny represents something Ava can't control. From my perspective, Sunny is cautious, experienced, and most importantly, he knows Ava. That makes him dangerous to her. And I think Ava knows that too. I'm going to say something that might be controversial. I think Ava might consider taking Sunny down. Not out of revenge, not out of anger, but out of necessity. And I feel like that changes everything. Because if Ava truly wants to rise in Sidwell's world, then removing Sunny might be the fastest way to prove her loyalty. And I could be wrong, but it seems to me like Sidwell has always wanted Sunny gone, regardless of what happened with Marco. So if Ava delivers that, she becomes invaluable. That's the real question. And honestly, I think she is. I feel like Ava has crossed too many lines in the past for this to be out of character. But what makes this different is the motivation. This isn't impulsive. This isn't emotional. This is strategic. And that makes it far more dangerous. Let me walk through a few possibilities, because I think there are several directions this storyline could take. I think this is the most straightforward path. Ava gains Sidwell's trust. She becomes his partner. She learns everything. And eventually, she either controls him or replaces him. In my opinion, this would mark Ava's full transformation into a power player. This is where things get risky. Because if Sidwell realizes Ava is using him, I don't think he hesitates, and I feel like this could lead to one of the darkest outcomes for Ava. Because Sidwell doesn't strike me as someone who forgives, betrayal. This is where things get complicated. I could be wrong, but I don't completely rule out the possibility that Ava starts this as a game and then gets pulled in emotionally, because that's always been her weakness. And if that happens, everything becomes unpredictable. This is the one that keeps sticking with me. Because if Ava truly believes that Sunny is standing between her and power, then I think she might act. Not recklessly, but deliberately, and that would change everything in Port Charles. I'm going to say something that not everyone will agree with. I think Ava might be more dangerous than any of the so-called villains right now, even more than Sidwell. Because at least with someone like Sidwell, you know what you're dealing with. With Ava, you don't. She adapts, she learns, she evolves. And I feel like that unpredictability makes her the real threat. I feel like we're building towards something major. Not an explosion, not a sudden twist, but a slow, calculated shift in power. And I think Ava is at the center of it. I could be wrong, but it seems to me like this storyline isn't about romance at all. It's about ambition. It's about control. And it's about how far someone is willing to go to get what they want. So now I'm curious what you think. Do you see Ava the same way I do? Or do you think I'm overanalyzing this? Do you think she's really playing a long game with Sidwell? Or is this just another emotional storyline? And most importantly, do you think Ava would actually go as far as taking Sunny down? I feel like this could go in so many directions, and honestly, that's what makes it so interesting. Let me know your thoughts. I'd really like to hear how you see it.